The market was alive with noise and light. Thousands of beings from 100 different worlds filled the great auction hall. Creatures with shining scales, tall aliens with glowing eyes, and merchants in rich robes pushed against one another, all waiting for the next rare prize to be shown. The smell of burning oils and strange foods filled the air, mixing with the sound of voices speaking in many tongues. On the tall stage at the center, the auctioneer raised his long silver staff. His voice boomed, carried by hidden machines. Next, item, rare, exotic, only chance tonight. The crowd leaned forward. Every auction promised new wonders. Some bought for profit, some for power, some simply for amusement. The lights dimmed. A cage rolled forward, guarded by armored beings with sharp weapons. Inside, two figures stood close together. They were young women, or at least they looked like women, though not human. Their skin was smooth and faintly shining, as if touched by starlight. Their eyes were bright and wild, glowing softly like twin moons. Their hair flowed like silver water, catching every light in the hall. The crowd fell silent for a moment. Then the whispers began. They are too soft. Wild eyes, not trained. Not fit for work, not strong for war. Pretty perhaps, but useless. The girls kept silent, their hands gripping one another tightly. They did not beg. They did not cry. But their hearts raced, and their eyes searched the crowd with both fear and anger. The auctioneer smiled, showing sharp teeth. Behold the last of their kind. Two survivors from a forgotten race, a treasure, a mystery. But his words carried no weight. The crowd had already judged. No value, someone said. Better to buy machines, another added. Not worth a single credit. The auctioneer raised his staff again. Opening bid, 10,000 credits. Silence. 5,000. Still silence. The two girls stood taller, refusing to look broken, though inside they felt their hope slipping away. The Maiden, auctioneer's smile faded. His eyes narrowed. Sweat appeared on his brow. If no one bid, he would lose face, and his masters would not forgive failure. 2,000 credits, he shouted, voice almost desperate. The crowd only laughed. No one will take them, a traitor, mocked. Too wild, too gentle, worthless, another sneered. The auctioneer slammed his staff down, anger flashing in his eyes. Surely someone. These are the last of a dying race, their beauty alone. And then, a voice rose above the noise. Calm, clear, human. I will bid. The hall turned. There, near the back of the crowd, stood a man, a human. His clothes were plain, his face unremarkable compared to the strange shapes around him, but his eyes were steady and his hand was raised without hesitation. You? The auctioneer asked, almost laughing. You will bid? At 2,000? The man nodded once. Yes. The crowd burst into laughter. A fool. Humans do, not know value. Waste of credits. But the man did not lower his hand. His gaze stayed fixed on the two girls in the cage. And for the first time, the girls looked back and saw something strange in his eyes. Not greed, not cruelty, not mockery. Something else. Something they had not seen in a long time. Recognition. The auctioneer blinked, then raised his staff again. Sold. At 2,000 credits to the human. The crowd jeered, but the deal was made. Guards moved to push the cage toward the human buyer. The two girls held each other's hands tighter. Their hearts raced. They did not understand this man, this plain human who saw worth where no one else did. Why? What did he want? As the cage rolled closer, the man's expression did not change. Calm, quiet, watching. The auctioneer grumbled under his breath, angry that the price had been so low. The merchants whispered that the human had been tricked, but the girls felt a flicker of something they had not felt in years. Hope. And yet, in the shadows of the auction hall, other eyes watched with cold hunger. Not everyone was pleased with this sale. The night was not finished. The auctioneer raised his voice again, calling for the next item, but many in the crowd were still staring at the human and his strange purchase. Some shook their heads, some laughed, but a few, very few, looked with sharp interest. Because they knew. These girls were not as weak as they seemed, and the human, whether fool or visionary, had just stepped into a story far greater than he understood. The girls still inside their cage met his gaze once more. Their hearts beat faster. Perhaps this was only another chain, or perhaps it was the beginning of freedom. The market lights burned bright. The noise of the crowd returned, but in the center of it all, 3 lives had just been tied together by fate. The auction had ended. The true story had just begun. The humans. Payment was quick, his voice steady and his eyes calm as he confirmed the deal. The auctioneer smirked, relieved to be rid of the unsellable lot, though still angry at the small price. The crowd mocked him, throwing out words like fool, dreamer, and waster of credits. But the man did not reply. The cage, heavy and metallic, was rolled to the back where the human waited. The 2 alien girls stood silent inside, their glowing eyes fixed on him. They were not sure if he was another master, another cruel buyer who would lock them away. The man pressed his hand to the scanner. The cage hissed, metal doors sliding open with a sharp sound. The guard stepped back. The 2 girls hesitated, unsure if this was another trick. "Come," the man said simply. His voice was not loud, not commanding. It was quiet, but it carried a weight of certainty. For the first time they stepped out of their cage. Their bare feet touched the cold stone floor. The crowd jeered again. "Look at him, walking away with trash. Those creatures will eat him alive. He has bought his own death." The man ignored them all. He turned and began walking through the great hall, the 2 girls following closely. Their steps were small, unsure, but their eyes never left him. As they left the auction house, the world outside greeted them with chaos. The alien city was a storm of light and sound, towering spires of metal and glass, sky ships roaring above, neon signs flashing in strange languages. The streets were filled with merchants shouting, creatures hissing, machines buzzing. It was a world that devoured the weak. The human moved through it with calm steps. He did not rush, he did not hide, but there was purpose in his every movement. Finally, when the noise faded and the crowd thinned, he stopped in a shadowed street. He turned to them. "You are safe now," he said. The girls exchanged a glance. Their glowing eyes narrowed. One of them, the taller, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but strong. "Safe? Why? Why did you buy us?" The human met her gaze. His eyes were not cruel, not mocking, they were steady. "Because no one else saw you, but I did." The shorter girl frowned, confusion mixing with suspicion. "Saw us? For what? We are nothing to them. Weak, worthless." "Not to me," he said. Silence filled the narrow street. The girl studied him carefully. His face was ordinary compared to the glowing beings of this world. Yet there was something in his expression, something steady, something that told them he spoke truth. But peace never lasted long in this city. From behind, heavy footsteps echoed. Shadows stretched as a group of rough figures appeared. Hunters, alien mercenaries with cruel weapons strapped to their backs. Their eyes locked on the girls. One of them spat. "The auction was a mistake. Those 2 are dangerous. Hand them over, human, and walk away alive." The girls stiffened, their bodies trembling. Not with fear, but with rage. The taller one whispered to her sister, "They know." The human stood still. His hand did not move toward a weapon. His voice was calm, even now. "They belong to no one but themselves," he said. The hunters laughed, cruel and sharp. Brave words for a weak human. "Step aside." But the man did not move. The hunters advanced, weapons rising. And then, something happened. The air shimmered. The 2 alien girls stepped forward, their eyes glowing brighter. Energy rippled around them, faint but alive, like the hum of unseen lightning. The hunters froze, their mocking grins fading. One whispered, "No, it cannot be." The taller girl raised her hand. The light around her fingers flared, striking the ground with a spark that cracked the stone. The hunters stumbled back, fear flashing in their eyes. The human did not look surprised. He only said softly, "So it's true." The girls turned to him, shocked. "You knew?" the shorter one asked. "I suspected," he answered. "I saw it in your eyes at the auction. A power you tried to hide. They called you soft. But I saw strength." The hunters, shaken, decided to retreat. One snarled, pointing a finger at the girls. "This is not over. The galaxy will not allow your kind to rise again." Then they disappeared into the shadows. The street fell silent again. The two girls' breathing was heavy, their hands trembling after using their hidden gift. They stared at the human. "You did not fear us," the taller one said. "No," he replied simply. "You should," whispered the younger. The man shook his head. "Fear blinds. I do not fear. I see." For a moment the girls stood frozen. All their lives they had been called weak, wild, useless. And yet this human, ordinary, plain, looked at them and spoke as if they were worth more than all the treasures of the auction hall. The younger one whispered almost to herself, "Why us? Why help?" The man's eyes softened. "Because sometimes the galaxy is blind. It throws away what it cannot understand, but I see beauty where others see nothing." The words hung in the air, heavier than any weapon. The girls looked at each other. For the first time in years, they felt something stir inside them, not just power, not just rage, but hope. And deep inside, a question formed. Was this human just a fool, or the beginning of something far greater? The hunters had retreated into the shadows, but their threat still echoed in the narrow street. The two alien girls stood close to the human, their glowing eyes flicking from side to side, waiting for another ambush. The human spoke softly, calm as always. "They will not stop, we must move." He began walking deeper into the maze of alleys. The girls followed, their steps quick, their hands brushing against one another as if afraid to be pulled apart again. The city around them was alive with noise, hoverbikes screaming through the sky, alien voices bargaining in hidden corners, lights flashing like restless stars. But in their path the shadows grew darker, thicker, almost as if the city itself was trying to trap them. The taller girl whispered, "Why do they chase us? Why risk so much?" The human glanced back once. "Because power is always hunted. And you have more than you know." The words made both sisters shiver. They had hidden their gifts for years, afraid of what would happen if others discovered the truth. Yet this human spoke as if he had known all along. They turned into a wider street lined with rusted market stalls. For a brief moment, it looked empty. Too empty. The younger girl tugged at her sister's arm. "It's a trap." She was right. From the rooftops, figures dropped like shadows, hunters more than before. Their eyes gleamed, their weapons buzzing with deadly energy. The girls stepped back, pressing against the human's side. The lead hunter sneered. "We told you, human. They are not for you. Hand them over and maybe we let you live." The human's face did not change. He spoke as if he were talking to the wind. "You see weapons, I see people, you will not take them." Laughter broke out among the hunters. One raised his blaster and fired without warning. The shot never reached its target. The taller girl raised her hand instinctively. A flash of light burst from her palm, catching the bolt mid-air. The energy dissolved like smoke. The hunters gasped. The younger sister's eyes blazed bright silver. She stepped forward, her voice low and dangerous. "We said no." Her body moved faster than sight. She spun, her hand slicing the air, and a wave of invisible force pushed 3 hunters back, slamming them into the wall. The crowd of hunters staggered, their confidence cracking. But rage replaced their fear. They fired again, weapons glowing, the night alive with light and sound. The human grabbed the sister's hands. "Not here. Run!" They broke into motion, racing through the market. Bolts of energy tore past them, shattering stalls, setting alien fruits on fire, sending machines crashing to the ground. The hunters shouted, their footsteps pounding after them. The chase tore through the heart of the city. The sisters moved like lightning, their hidden gifts awakening with every step. They jumped higher than gravity should allow, pushed aside barriers with waves of energy, and sent sparks flying with their touch. The human, though slower, never let go of their hands. He pulled them forward, guiding them through paths only someone who knew the city's veins could find. At one turn, they burst into a crowded square filled with towering holograms and endless faces. The hunters followed, their weapons glowing red. The crowd screamed, scattering in all directions. The younger sister stopped, her chest heaving. "We can't keep running." The human looked at her, calm even as chaos swirled around them. "Then don't run, choose." The taller sister's eyes flashed. She turned to face the hunters, her hair shimmering like liquid silver. Energy built around her, humming in the air, rattling the very ground. The hunters slowed, fear crawling into their eyes. One whispered, "Impossible." That race was destroyed, but the truth stood before them, alive, burning with power. The taller sister raised both hands. Light exploded outward, forming a wall between them and the hunters. Blasts of energy hit it and dissolved like rain on stone. The crowd gasped. The younger sister stepped forward, her voice like steel. "You call us soft. You call us weak. You are wrong." She struck the ground with her bare foot. A shockwave cracked the street, throwing hunters off their feet, their weapons scattering into the dark. For a moment, silence. The hunters lay stunned. The sisters stood tall, their chests rising and falling, their power glowing brighter than ever. The human stepped between them and the fallen hunters, his voice firm but calm. "They will keep coming, but you don't have to face them alone anymore." The sisters looked at him, their hearts racing, their fear mixing with something new, trust. Alarms began to sound in the distance. The city authorities would arrive soon. More danger. More eyes. The human turned sharply. "This way." He led them into another alley, moving quickly before the square filled with soldiers. The sisters followed, still glowing faintly there, bodies trembling from the power they had released. The younger one whispered, "We should have hidden." The taller shook her head. "No, we showed them. They will remember." The human listened, his face unreadable. Then he spoke softly, almost to himself. "Yes, they will remember, and the galaxy will not forget what it has thrown away." The sisters glanced at him, confused yet curious. Who was this human? Why was he so calm in the face of chaos? The city roared behind them, hunters regrouping, alarms rising, soldiers moving. But in that narrow alley, something larger had already begun. 3 figures, 2 aliens once thought worthless, and 1 human who saw their worth, were no longer running from danger. They were stepping into it together, and danger had no idea what it had just awakened. The city's alarms still echoed in the distance, but the human led the sisters deeper into the forgotten parts of the streets. Here the lights were dim, the walls covered in rust and shadow. Few dared to walk these alleys. At last he stopped at a broken door. He pressed a code into the panel and the door opened with a hiss. Inside was a small hidden shelter, metal walls, a single lamp, and shelves stacked with supplies. It was not rich, not fancy, but it was safe. The sisters stepped inside, breathing hard. Their glowing eyes scanned the room, their bodies still tense. They were ready to fight again if needed. "You are safe here," the human said quietly, closing the door behind them. The taller sister turned, her voice sharp. "Safe? We showed our power in public. Hunters saw. Soldiers will come. No place is safe now." The human nodded calmly. "That is why we must speak. The truth must not remain hidden anymore." The sisters froze. Their hands tightened around each other's. The younger one whispered, almost trembling, "What truth?" The human met their eyes. "Who you really are." Silence filled the shelter. The lamp flickered, casting long shadows. The taller sister stepped closer to him, her eyes narrow and suspicious. You speak as if you already know. The man gave a small nod. I don't know everything, but I've seen fragments, records buried in old data archives, stories told by dying travelers. A race once known for peace, for balance, a race that vanished when the galaxy turned to war. The sisters' breath caught. Their bodies stiffened, and for the first time their proud faces cracked. You speak of the Lumari, whispered the younger one. The word lingered in the air like a ghost. The human nodded again. Yes, the Lumari, a race thought gone forever, but you are the last. The taller sister's eyes glistened, but her voice was bitter. Gone, yes. Burned, hunted, destroyed. Too gentle, they said, too soft for war, and so the galaxy crushed us. The younger one added, her voice shaking, They feared our gift, not because it was weak, but because it was not meant for conquest. It was meant for harmony, and the galaxy had no place for peace. The human listened quietly, letting their words flow. For years they had held this story inside, buried under fear and silence. Now it spilled out like water breaking through a cracked wall. The taller sister continued, her tone sharp, angry. Our people could feel the breath of the universe. We could bend the flow of energy, not to kill, but to heal, to guide, to protect. But warlords saw no value in that. They wanted weapons, not balance. They slaughtered us, the younger said, her voice breaking. We were children when it happened. We hid, we ran, and when we were found, we were sold like animals. Tears glowed in their strange eyes, shimmering like silver fire. The human's face remained calm, but his voice carried quiet weight. You are not animals. You are survivors. The sisters stared at him. No one had ever spoken to them like that. The taller one clenched her fists. Do you not fear us? You saw what we did. We can destroy hunters with a thought. We can crack the ground with our steps. Are you not afraid? The human shook his head slowly. Fear is for those who cannot see. I see you. Not monsters, not weapons. Beings with a gift the galaxy tried to erase. That is why they want you gone, because you remind them of what they lost. The room fell silent again. The lamp buzzed softly. For the first time, the sisters did not know how to answer. They had heard only cruelty, mockery, and greed from others. But this human spoke with calm truth, as if he had been waiting his whole life to say it. The younger sister whispered, Why you? Why does a human care? The man looked away for a moment, his eyes lost in memory. Because I know what it is to lose. My world once called me weak too. I chose to walk away. But when I saw you in that cage, I saw myself. I could not let the galaxy blind itself again. The sisters exchanged a long look. Their eyes were full of questions, fear, and something they had not felt in years. Trust. The taller sister placed her hand on his arm, testing. If you walk with us, you will be hunted too. I already am, he answered softly. But hunted or not, I will stand with you. The younger sister's voice trembled as she asked, And if we fail, if they kill us? Then we will fall together, he said, but not as slaves, not as forgotten. The sisters closed their eyes, their breathing slow. For a long moment, they let silence speak. Then the taller sister opened, her eyes again shining brighter than before. If you truly know our story, then you know we cannot hide forever. Our people's memory must rise again. The younger one nodded, her voice steadier now. Then we walk a path of fire. The human gave the faintest smile. A path worth walking. Outside, the city still raged. Soldiers marched, hunters planned, and rumors spread fast of two alien girls who wielded impossible light. The galaxy stirred with whispers of the Lumari. Inside the shelter, 3 figures sat in the quiet glow of a single lamp. 2 survivors who carried the last spark of a fallen race. 1 human who refused to let the spark die. The secrets were no longer hidden. The truth was revealed, and with truth came destiny. The shelter was quiet, but peace never lasted long in a galaxy filled with greed. The sisters rested against the wall, their glowing eyes dim with exhaustion. The human sat across from them, silent, watching the small lamp flicker. They had revealed their past, their truth, and he had accepted it without fear. For a moment, the bond between them felt unbreakable, but danger was already moving closer. That night, the human left the shelter briefly to gather supplies. The sisters waited, whispering to one another. "Do you trust him?" the younger one asked. The taller sister hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yes, but trust is fragile. One wrong step and it breaks." When the door opened again, the human was not alone. 3 figures stepped in with him. Humans, dressed in worn armor, carrying concealed weapons. Their eyes flicked to the sisters, with hunger and calculation. "These are my friends," the human said, his voice calm. "They will help us leave the city." The sisters stood, uneasy. Something in the stranger's eyes felt wrong. The tallest of the new arrivals smirked. "So these are the famous prizes, worth more than I imagined." The younger sister stiffened. "Prizes?" The human frowned at his companion. "We agreed. We helped them escape." The smirk deepened. "Escape? No, my friend. We don't waste. Credits. To Lumari. Do you know what warlords would pay for them? We could be rich beyond measure." The human's jaw tightened. "That is not what we are here for." The man laughed coldly. "You always were blind. You see beauty in ashes, but I see profit in fire." The other 2 humans moved to block the door, weapons sliding from their belts. The sisters glowing, eyes widened. Their hearts pounded. The taller whispered to her sister. "Betrayal." The younger hissed. "I told you, trust breaks." The human stepped forward, putting himself between the sisters and his old allies. His voice was low but sharp. "Stand down. They are not for sale." One of the men sneered. "Not for sale? Everything is for sale, especially them." Weapons lifted. The air grew thick with tension. The sisters' power stirred, faint sparks, glowing at their fingertips. "Don't," the human warned quickly, glancing at them. "If you fight here, the whole city will know. We need another way." But the taller sister's eyes burned. "Another way? They would chain us again. We will not return to cages." The leader of the traitors raised his blaster, pointing it straight at the human. His smile was cruel. "You had your chance. Step aside. You're no fighter. You're nothing. You can walk away and live or die with them." The human didn't flinch. His eyes stayed steady. "I walk with them." For a moment, silence. Then, the leader snarled and pulled the trigger. The shot never landed. A flash of light burst across the room. The younger sister's hand had risen, catching the bolt mid-air. It dissolved into sparks. The traitors stumbled back in shock. "Impossible!" The taller sister's voice thundered, echoing through the metal walls. "You would sell us like cattle, but we are not your property." Her body glowed, her power surging. The room shook, metal groaning under the weight of her energy. The traitors panicked, firing wildly. Bolts of energy tore into the walls, filling the shelter with smoke and fire. The human grabbed the sister's arms. "Not here! Out!" They burst through the broken door into the night. The streets were alive with shadows, hunters and soldiers, drawn by the noise. The city itself seemed to tighten its grip, eager to trap them. Behind them, the traitors gave chase, shouting curses. One screamed, "You'll regret this, human. You chose them over us." The human's voice carried back, like steel. "I chose right." The sisters' power flared again, forming a wall of light behind them, blocking the path. The traitors' shouts faded as the barrier held, but the damage was done. The sisters now knew the truth. Even friends could become enemies when greed called. They found a quiet rooftop and collapsed there, the night sky stretching above like an endless ocean of stars. The sisters breathed heavily, their bodies trembling from the fight. The human sat with them, his face calm but shadowed with sadness. The younger one whispered, her voice raw. "Even your kind betray you. You chose us. And they turned on you." He nodded slowly. "Yes. But betrayal does not define me." My choices do. The taller sister looked at him closely, her glowing eyes softening. You stood between us and death. You risked everything. The human gave a small smile. I told you. I see what others cannot. They saw profit. I saw people. For a moment, the rooftop was quiet, only the hum of distant skyships filling the air. The sisters leaned close to each other, their hands clasped tight. They had lost their people, their world, and now even this man's old allies had tried to sell them. But still, he had stood with them. The younger one whispered, "Why do you not leave us? We bring danger." The human gazed at the stars. His voice was low. Because danger is worth facing if it means saving what should never be lost. The taller sister's heart stirred. No one had ever spoken for them like this. Not even their own kind long ago. For the first time, they began to believe that perhaps they were not just survivors. Perhaps they were something more. But below, in the streets, hunters regrouped, soldiers armed themselves, and somewhere in the shadows, the humans' betrayed allies plotted revenge. The night was not finished. The real storm was only beginning. The night stretched on, heavy with danger. On the rooftop, the human and the two sisters sat under the endless stars. The city below glowed with fire and steel, a machine that never slept. The sisters held each other's hands, their glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. They were exhausted, their bodies trembling after releasing so much power. Yet for the first time in years, they felt something other than fear. They felt seen. The taller sister broke the silence. Why do you keep standing with us, human? We are hunted. Anyone who helps us will die. The man's eyes stayed fixed on the stars. His voice was calm, steady as always. Because the galaxy is blind. It throws away what it does not understand. But I see truth where others see nothing. The younger sister frowned, her voice sharp. Truth? They call us weak. They call us worthless. The man turned to her. His gaze did not waver. They see only with greed. I see with heart. You are not weak. You are not worthless. You are light in a dark galaxy. The sisters froze, their breath caught. No one had ever spoken of them that way. Before they could answer, the rooftop shook. A ship hovered above, its engines roaring. Searchlights cut through the darkness. Soldiers in black armor rappelled down, their weapons aimed at the three below. Target confirmed, a soldier shouted. To Lumari. Capture alive. The sisters stiffened, fear flashing in their eyes. But the human stood and spread his arms slightly, stepping in front of them. His voice rang out clear. You call them targets. I call them people. You will not take them. The soldiers laughed, their masks hiding their faces. A human protecting aliens? Fool. Step aside or die first. The sisters' hearts pounded. The taller whispered, We cannot keep running. They will never stop. The younger nodded, her eyes glowing brighter. Then we show them. Energy pulsed through the air as the sisters stepped forward. The soldiers fired. Blasts of red light shot toward them. But the taller sister raised her hand, and a wall of shimmering energy formed in front of them. The blasts dissolved against it like sparks on water. Gasps erupted among the soldiers. Impossible! The younger sister moved next, her voice low and fierce. You call us soft, but you know nothing of us. She spun, and waves of invisible force swept across the rooftop, knocking soldiers to the ground, tearing weapons from their hands. The human stood behind them, calm, watching as they revealed their strength fully for the first time. His lips curved into the faintest smile. Yes, he whispered. Now they see. The battle was short, but it left the rooftop scarred, metal cracked and smoking. The sisters stood side by side, glowing like silver flames. The soldiers, beaten, scrambled back to their ship, retreating into the night sky. For a moment, silence. Then the younger sister turned to the human, her eyes wide. You saw this in us. You knew. He nodded. From the beginning. Not beauty of skin or hair. Not the glow of your eyes. True beauty is here. He placed his hand lightly over his chest. Your courage. Your will to stand even when the galaxy pushes you down. The taller sister's throat tightened. Her voice was barely a whisper. You speak as if we are more than survivors. You are, the man said simply. You are hope. The sisters looked at each other. For years they had lived in chains, called useless, treated as objects. Tonight they had fought back, not just to survive, but to protect. And for the first time someone had called them more than their pain, the younger sister blinked away tears. Hope? Can we be hope? The taller one gripped her hand, her voice firm. Yes, if we choose to be. The human nodded. The galaxy has forgotten peace. It has forgotten harmony. You can remind it. That is your true beauty. Dawn broke slowly over the city. The sky glowed red and gold. The sisters stood on the rooftop watching the sun rise. Their glowing eyes shimmered with new light, no longer only fear. The human stood beside them, silent but steady. He had no powers, no glowing skin, no weapons beyond his will. Yet he was the one who had given them strength to see themselves again. The taller sister whispered, We were last. We thought we were nothing, but maybe we are beginning. The younger smiled faintly. Not alone this time. The human's calm voice carried into the morning air. Not alone. Never again. Below, the city still stirred with danger. The hunters plotted. The soldiers reported their failure. The humans' old allies sharpened their knives, hungry for revenge. But on that rooftop, the galaxy's last Lumari and the human who believed in them stood together. They were no longer only prey. No longer hidden. They were fire. They were light. They were true beauty revealed. And the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The first light of dawn stretched over the city, painting the towers in gold and crimson. But peace was only an illusion. Beneath the glow, the world stirred with whispers of fear and greed. Word of the Lumari had spread. Hunters sharpened their blades, warlords prepared their armies, and spies carried messages across the stars. The sisters stood at the rooftops, edge the wind pulling at their silver hair. Their glowing eyes watched the horizon, where ships crossed like shadows of birds. They had once been slaves, forgotten, caged. Now the galaxy was awake to their presence, and it would not let them go. The human joined them, standing between the two. His face was calm, but his voice carried the weight of choice. They will come again, stronger, with more soldiers, more weapons. You cannot stay here. The taller sister clenched her fists. We are tired of running, we should fight. The younger shook her head, fear flashing in her eyes. Fight all of them? Armies? Warlords? Entire fleets? The human looked at both of them, his eyes steady. You are more than survivors, but survival will not be enough. You must decide what you will become. The sisters fell silent. His words were heavy, pressing into their hearts. Below, the streets shifted. The humans' former allies gathered with hunters. Plans were whispered. Traps were set. Already, the city was preparing to deliver the Lumari to the highest bidder. The human knew it. The sisters felt it. Time was short. The younger sister's voice trembled. If we choose wrong, we die. The human placed a hand on her shoulder. Then die as more than victims. Die as truth. Or live as hope. The taller sister's eyes blazed with light. Hope. Their decision carried them into the city once more. But this time, they did not hide in alleys or shadows. They walked, openly, their steps firm, their glowing eyes daring anyone to challenge them. Crowds stared. Whispers spread like fire. Lumari? Impossible. They were gone. 2 girls and a human? Hunters followed, but none dared attack. Soldiers watched, their hands tight on their weapons, but fear held them back. The sisters moved like silver flames, and the human walked calmly at their side. At the center of the city stood a broken monument. Once, a statue of a great warlord now crumbling and forgotten. The sisters stopped before it. "This is where they mocked us," the taller whispered. "Where they called us useless." The younger's voice was soft, trembling. "Then let this be where they see us." They climbed the base of the broken statue. The crowd gathered. Fearful eyes, greedy eyes, curious eyes, all watching. The human stood below, silent, letting them speak. The taller sister raised her voice, strong as thunder. "You called us soft. You called us weak. You tried to erase us." Her glowing eyes swept across the crowd. "But we are still here, and we are not the end of our people. We are the beginning of something greater." The younger joined her, her voice sharper, fiercer. "We will not hide. We will not be sold. We are Lumari, and we will rise." The crowd gasped as the air around the sisters shimmered with power. Their silver glow spread outward, forming waves of light that touched the walls, the streets, even the hearts of those who watched. For a moment, the entire city seemed to hold its breath. The human smiled faintly. This was what he had seen all along, not just survivors, but leaders, symbols of something the galaxy had forgotten. But power always drew danger. From the shadows, blasters lifted. Hunters had surrounded the square. The humans' old allies stepped forward, their eyes sharp with greed. Soldiers tightened their ranks, ready to strike. The human moved to the base of the monument, his voice low but firm. "They are ready. Are you?" The sister's eyes met his, and for the first time they smiled, not in fear, but in certainty. "Yes," the taller said. "We are ready." The younger echoed. The first shot rang out. A hunter fired. The sisters lifted their hands. Together. A dome of light burst outward, covering the square. The blast dissolved harmlessly. The crowd gasped, torn between awe and terror. Some fell to their knees, others fled, but many stayed, drawn by the impossible. The human's voice cut through the chaos. "You cannot kill what was never weak. You cannot chain what was never yours." The sisters' power grew brighter, rising higher than the broken monument. Their glow lit the city, reaching into every corner. It was not just defense, it was a message. The Lumari were back. Far above, in the cold silence of space, ships caught the glow on their sensors. Warlords snarled, leaders whispered, some trembled. A storm was coming. On the ground, the hunters regrouped, soldiers shouted orders, and the humans' former allies screamed their fury. But the sisters stood tall, silver flames against the darkness. And the human stood with them, his calm voice a promise. "They thought you were too soft, too wild, too worthless." He looked at the enemies gathering, then at the sisters. They were wrong. The light from the sisters' power surged one final time, rising into the sky like a beacon. The city was no longer silent. It roared with the birth of a legend. The last Lumari had become more than survivors. They had become a beginning. And the galaxy, blind for so long, would now be forced to see. The story was no longer about cages, auctions, or betrayal. It was about destiny, and destiny had only just begun.